when we are talking on naming things, it is really important that this stays with you. Now, what's going to happen during the year is we're going to talk about certain names of things, and we're going to keep coming back to this lesson. This is kind of like the lesson of housekeeping. It's like the rules of the game. You need to know what the rules are. Okay, I'm going to add one more here. We're going to learn how to name all these things. Okay? So when you're dealing with a point, if they ever say anything like point T, then you're going to look at the picture and look for the T, and it's just that point on the in the picture. It's not an area. It really doesn't have an area. It's just a little point, okay? So whenever you see that little dot before a letter, they're talking about a point, okay? If it's a ray, I'm going to draw a ray right here. And I'm going to draw it like this. When you're naming a ray, you would put the ray sign above it, and you always start with the letter where the ray starts, because that's a hard stop at B. It doesn't keep going to infinity and beyond, okay? Then it goes through A, and it goes through the arrow. It is not AB. We cannot name that ray AE. We name it BA, okay? So if I have a segment, let's put this as CD. What name can I name the segment? So here you put a line on top, and it's CD. That means it's the segment between C and D. And I can measure a segment because it has a stop, a start, and a stop. But I cannot measure a ray. A ray goes to infinity and beyond, so I cannot measure a ray, okay? So this is going to be CD or DC. They're both good names. If this ray had another letter, D right here, then I could also name this ray what? Line can be named a few ways. In your homework, they don't address what I'm going to tell you. But sometimes next to a line is like a cursive letter like that. And you can name the line line M if it's a cursive letter off to the side that's not on a point on the line. If you use points, you have to use two, just like we did before. So if I had A, B, C, and D, you can actually pick any two of those letters and call it that. So this has tons and tons of names. I'm not going to list them all, but you can do them forward and backwards, any two letters. So this is going to be like CD, line AB, but it's also line cursive M. All right, so plane. Sometimes with a plane, it's always going to be a shape. It doesn't have to be a quadrilateral, but most of them are some type of quadrilateral for some reason. But it could be a triangle, could be anything. And when you look at a plane, if we're in a box right now, we're stuck in a box. A plane is any one of the walls, the ceiling, or the floor. And in real life, when they're talking about a plane, we represent it with a closed quadrilateral, but it actually goes on to infinity and beyond. You can envision it goes forever. Okay, so if I'm on this plane, I am on, let's say, the direction of Sardis Road all the way to infinity and beyond, to space. Okay, so plane, you could have letters in here. Let's say we have A, B, C, D, where you could have a cursive letter, usually capitalized, and a lot of times it's an N. For some reason, they like to use capital N's when they do that. So this plane is any three of the outside letters, the corner letters, or the plain N. They'll name it that way. On your homework, they're not addressing the cursive ones. They're just addressing the letters. So if they ask you to name it, just name it with three letters, any three letters. So your name is going to be either literally plain N, or plain, and I'm going to pick three letters, A, C, D. Okay? You only need three to establish direction. You don't need two. Two does not establish direction, okay? because it doesn't show that it's the whole wall. You need 3 points to show how it goes this way. Okay? So parallel lines, if we're in this box again, you're going to find 2 lines in this room, and look at the corners, that will go in the same direction but never touch in a million years, no matter what happens. Perpendicular lines are going to be lines that intersect and form a 90-degree angle, either like this or like this, any line that forms a 90-degree angle. And they use an upside down T to show that 2 lines are parallel. So if I have line L and line M, I would write line L is perpendicular to line M, okay? If this was line Q and P, which I don't use that much because they look alike to some people, line Q is parallel to line P. Skew lines are lines that are not parallel and are not perpendicular. They could appear to be perpendicular, but they never touch, okay? So if I look at this box and I choose this line right here and this line right here, those 2 lines, one's in the front of the box, one's in the back of the box, they're going in opposite directions, but they're never going to touch. Those are skew lines, okay? So if they were both on the back of the box, they would be perpendicular. But since one is on the front, one's on the back, they are skew. So if this is line L and line M, they are skew lines because they're going to go in opposite directions. And it could be even like this. It doesn't have to be perpendicular in a perpendicular way, but they're never going to touch. They're never going to intersect. They don't have any points in common, okay? When I name an angle, and I am going to draw just a basic angle like this, and I'm going to put an A here, a P here, and a D here, okay? This angle can be named 3 different ways. Does anybody know what they are? So we can name it angle, and you do like that, like not really an L, like a L where the top line has collapsed a little bit. Angle APD, angle DPA, and angle P. You can name this angle angle P. And that is because what I call the P is the elbow of the angle. Think of P is, I call P the elbow, okay? It's called the vertex in real math. This is the vertex. And the vertex, if you're using 3 letters, has to be the middle letter. You understand? We're going from A to P to D. So you're finding that that is the angle we're looking for. Or you're going from D to P to A, and that's still the same angle. The reason we can name that one angle P is because it's not complicated. But there are times you cannot use 1 letter for an angle, okay? If you don't know, use 3 letters. If you're kind of confused as to how to use this rule, use 3 letters, okay? Here I'm going to show you. I'm going to mark an angle in red, and you're going to give me the name. You're going to raise your hand if you know the name. You're all going to give me one, okay? So I'm going to name this one. I want you to give me a name of that angle. So we named the yellow angle CDG or GDC, okay? That shows us, and the elbow is technically the D, but it really doesn't have an elbow because it doesn't bend at all. It's a straight line, okay? One more. Let's see what we got here. The black one. What do we get? That would be HDF or FDH, okay? Are there any angles in this picture that you can name with 1 letter? Only A and D can be named with 1 letter because B has these 2 and this whole one. C has these 2 and this whole one. E has a mess. He's got this one, and this one. He's got this one, and he's got the whole one, okay? So you cannot name those with 1 letter. And then I'm just going to ask you to name this angle right here. So angle AEC, or backwards CEA. Okay? All right, everybody get on your Google Classroom.